Hey everybody, it's Dallas. So I have a fun video for you today. If you've seen my previous video about designing a Absinthe Fairy doll from Jade Winter Break Rainbow High, check out that video. It gives you some context for this one. And I'm going to make a dress in the style of those vintage posters as I planned. I'm real pumped about this project. I really hope it comes out good. This is a custom I've been wanting to do for so long, and this is just the next step in the customizing process. So I'm going to show you my process for making the pattern. I'm going to use some pattern pieces from a pattern I got for free. The pattern is by Cosmo Moore, who has a Tumblr, and I will include their link. This person has been so generous because they have so many awesome Rainbow High patterns all for free. Like, so cool. So it's a really good resource, and I can't thank you enough, Cosmo Moore, for giving me permission to use a pattern for sewing video on my channel too. So thank you so much. Anyway, so I'm just going to show you how I'm going to use this pattern as a sloper to get my little drawing here. Okay, I'm not good at drawing, so don't make fun of me, but these are my ideas for the outfit. So as you can see, the dress is kind of like a sweetheart neckline, a sleeveless, and it gathers in the middle there. And then this will be one piece here, and I've just made it longer, gave it a little curve in the back piece, and made this built-in slit here. I've got all the little strappy bits for the arms and the little strappy belt there too. So this will be the underdress. And then I'm going to add a gauzy, kind of transparent flowy fabric, attaching it to that. I'm going to try and drape it. We'll see how it goes. I don't really exactly know how I'm going to do that. I'm just going to make the base dress first and then kind of figure it out as I go. That's just, you know, how I do things. Let's Frankenstein a pattern. So Cosmo Moore had a pattern for a fitted mini dress, and I thought that was gonna exactly be perfect for what I needed. I would just lengthen the hem and create the slit, and that's it. So I've got the pattern right here. I'm just going to cut it out real quick. So my first step is I'm just going to trace these on a regular piece of paper. So the next step I do is I cut away the seam allowance and trace it without the seam allowance over that so I can have both on my new drawing. And then I'm going to draw the slit for the front. Then we'll make a little model of it. I'm putting it on a regular piece of paper because I'm going to change that pattern up a bit to make it longer. So it's just easier for me to trace it on another piece of paper and make it from there. I've drawn a lengthened skirt pattern on there on the piece of paper. And my next thing is just a little trick that I do for doll clothes. So instead of making what people typically call like a muslin in human clothes, I just make the pattern by paper towel and tape it on the doll, and that's sort of my trial. And then I just, you know, go wild and go straight to the fabric. So yeah, that's my process. It's no big deal. If you mess up, you'll have tons of fabric left. It uses such a small amount. This paper towel technique is great when you're making your own custom patterns, so you can test the fit. So now we've traced our little pattern on the paper towel, and I've applied tape where the seams would be, considering that seam allowance, and I'm just taping where the seam would actually be, using that seam allowance to kind of give it some shape there. Gather the top. Okay, so let's try it on her. I'm going to take the back closed and then just cut the hem here. Okay, so here is our little paper towel dress all done. So I cut it larger and then just to make sure that I liked the size of the slit there, and then I just cut it off to the slit, and I may adjust that. I know it doesn't look great at this top part here, but whatever. It's a paper towel dress. It's a test. It's not the purpose of this. The purpose isn't really to get this length and slit right. So I like this. It is the base dress, so it'll still have a fabric over this too. I think, I don't know, maybe I'll change the slit a little. I don't really know. I'll just kind of think about it, and I might even change it once I cut the fabric. Who knows? But I think this is great. I like the little mock-up pattern I made, and in typical me style, I will just make adjustments as I go, as needed to get what I want, since it's not, you know, it's not a precise science in my mind. Anyway, so let's go to the next step and put this on some fabric. Here is my very pretty base fabric, but I certainly don't need all half a yard that I have of it. So I'm just going to lay these on here and cut a small piece so that it's easier for me to work with. And I'm going to make sure I cut them for how many I need, because this needs 2, this needs 1. This I'm going to do 2 in this color and another one in the gauzy fabric. So we'll just lay them out. So here's my base fabric cut to how much I need, and this is how much fabric I have left. It's quite a bit. So honestly, I probably could have got away with a 1/4 of a yard rather than a 1/2 of a yard. But you know, you always worry you won't have enough. So this will go in the fabric stash, or if I mess up, we'll use it again. Here's the gauzy fabric that's going to be on top. So you can kind of see it's a slightly darker color, and but it looks really good with that green color too. And I did pre-wash both of these just to make sure there's no dye that's going to transfer on my doll. So the next step I need to do is transfer my pattern onto my fabric. I have a couple marking pens here, 2 markers, and then like a chalk thing. So I'm going to try these on a little scrap piece of fabric and see which one works the best and which one washes away clean, just so I don't, you know, ruin anything. This is, you know, like a very synthetic fabric. I'm just not sure how these things are going to work on them. So I want to test it out. Here's my scrap of fabric that I'm going to test my markers on. I have this purple one here. Just drawing a line. I have a blue marker. It doesn't write as neat, but it also is a little thinner. And this white chalk thing, that is hard to see. Yeah, the white chalk, I'm going to say that's out. I'll just give a second for these to dry, and then I'm going to just run a little water over it. Okay, good news. I rinsed that scrap that had the markers on it, and all of them came out clean. So I think I'll probably use the blue one since the purple one is bleeding a lot. Can't decide if I like this green fabric, a little wrinkly looking, or if I want to iron it and make it more straight. Either way, it'll probably get wrinkly at some point. But, you know, this is more wrinkled than it might get. I don't know. I'll think about that. Because the wrinkly look, I mean, it does kind of look nice. Like, in some sort of way. Like, it's kind of fairy-like or something like that. I don't know. Okay, so I have the top I have everything traced here, and then this is one piece of the top. It does have a lining, so I've got the other piece there. So I'm going to stitch that, and I'm going to put a layer of the gauzy fabric in between it, so it will kind of be like on top of the top. So the way I would do that is just like you normally would. You want to put the front of the fabric facing each other. And then you want to put this in there too. And make sure you're covering the whole pattern, that it has a hem and everything. I really need to actually iron this. And then you'll put that on top. And honestly, I can't really see the pattern on here because, you know, it's on here too. But what I'll probably do is just sew from this and keep that as a big chunk because, I don't know, I just find that easier with doll stuff. Okay, so I have the top part pinned, sandwiched in between. So right sides together, sandwich in between. So the first step is just to sew along this long edge, which is actually the top. This curved part's going to connect to the lower dress portion. So I just want to sew along that to get everything together for this lining at this point. So I have hand sewn that line there in the bottom, and I'm just going to turn it inside out now. So it doesn't look like much right now, but I've folded it over there. And then what I'm gonna do is just take a couple tiny stitches underneath this sheer fabric to just stitch these together here. And I think I'll let the sheer fabric flow a little bit, and then it'll get caught up in there too. So I'm just gonna put a couple little stitches just to like make it pretty secure. So see, I put that stitch in there and you can't even see it from the front. That green fabric is hiding it since I don't want this to be top stitched. I want it to just be simple. And that green fabric will have a hem at the bottom too, so it'll look more normal. But yep, I'm just gonna go and give a couple little stitches like that just to help hold it that way. The fabric here, we've got the sewn edge and the top down there. So this part is going to be sewn to the dress portion. So that's what I'm going to do next. So I have everything pinned here, the top part and the bottom part. This can be a little tricky because there's like a curve going this way and a curve going that way that you have to sew. So I tried to pin it as best that I could. Now I'll just hand sew that. It's going to be so finicky. So hand sewing is definitely recommended to anybody, or at least hand basting. My stitching is sloppy on this, but no one's gonna see it, so I didn't try very hard. If it was top stitching, I would have tried harder. Okay, so I have finished that sewing. That wasn't super easy, but I think it turned out okay. This is what the outside will look like. Don't worry, that knot will go away. Um, so yeah, it's got sort of this like kind of effect here. So when I go like this, it'll look kind of full here, and sort of it reminds me of Sunny's dress. Okay, so I didn't cut out the slit yet. I'm gonna wait to do that. But the next step here is to sew the back and the front together. So I have two back pieces. I'm just gonna cut them out. This, crazily, this marker already faded a lot, so I'm gonna have to redraw it. Well, it is the next day, and I gotta say, I kind of cheated and did some sewing off camera. So, I've discovered that I really don't like sewing on camera because I want to be on my couch in front of my TV, listening to something from my laptop, and just comfy. Sewing at my desk here is really not comfy. But anyway, I'll have to figure out a way to film in the area that I do enjoy sewing in. So last night I went and just did the side seams. So just connected one of the back pieces to the front piece and the other back piece to the other side of the front. So you can see this is how it looks now. You've got the front portion here and the two side panels. I went ahead and folded down this side and just did some tack stitching there. This is just my guess, my experiment. That's why I tried it before I turned on the camera. But I think it turned out okay, so I'm going to put that on this side too, that tack stitching. I didn't want like an all-out top stitch. I just didn't think that would look good. That's not usually something that will be done with, like, I don't know, a fancy dress. So I think this is what they do, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a professional. I'm sure you can tell. So I've just folded this bit over on the line, and I did it over here too. Those lines disappeared even though I remarked them again, so that purple marker is definitely not the one, but we'll deal with it for now. So let me just sew this little bit down and then we can move on to the next step. Okay, so here's what it's looking like right now. We've got the top all done here, and I'm going to put it on her in a second just so we can get a better look. Yeah, this looks stupid. I know, don't worry. I was just kind of test cutting some stuff when I was sewing the sides together. As you can see, it's so far from perfect. I basted it and then I stitched over my basting, so it looks so sloppy on the inside. And guess what? Who cares? I used to really struggle with being a perfectionist. I shouldn't say used to, I do. But I think, I just have to keep telling myself, no big deal. What's the big deal? Like, the doll isn't going to complain about it. So as long as it looks good on the outside and as long as I'm happy with it, it doesn't matter if the stitching is sloppy. Okay, so we're honestly really close to being done with this. There's two things left to do. One is do the hemline. Obviously, this looks like trash. And then the other thing is I'm going to turn it inside out and trim some of the seam allowance here and put a little fray check on there. Just to try and keep it from raveling apart, since this fabric is definitely very ravelly when it's cut on the grain. So for applying the fray check, you can see here, this edge is really tight. So I have a trick when you don't have a lot left. And then, so the trick is put a piece of paper under it as much as you can get. So we've got that there. And then when you apply the fray check, if you apply too much, which is really easy to do, it will like kind of bleed into the paper rather than bleeding to the other side of the fabric, because unfortunately it will kind of leave a dark spot on the fabric. So using fray check, you just want to be really careful because sometimes a lot will spurt out and then it can stain your fabric on the other side. Some fabrics don't have that, they don't stain at all, but this one I know will because I tested it. So anyway, let's just be really cautious when applying. And yeah, we'll get this fray checked because we do not want it to fray away into nothing. So this one's flowing pretty fast, so I'm going to be careful. The fabric does tend to soak it up, so I'm just going to apply it to the very edges here, especially where the paper is. And I'm just going to let it soak up into the fabric there. And we're just going to hope and pray it's not screwing it up on the other side, which I don't think it is. I just peeked and I think it's okay. And you can see here how much it's bled onto the regular fabric. So it really does bleed a lot. You just have to put it on the tiniest edge. And I can see right here it's bled over into my fabric. So that's a shame, but you know, it's going to honestly have some stitching over that to stitch the snap there. So it's not like the end of the world. Actually, no, that's the underside, so don't worry, no one's going to see that anyway. Next, we'll do this part. And that just came out that way because that was like a tight edge. I'm going to leave more of an edge on this one where I have the space to cut it more. And the reason I use fray check instead of doing like a finish on the seam is that I find for doll clothes, since they're so tiny, that finish on the seam really bulks it up. So if you want something that is going to, you know, not be so bulky, I think this is the method to go. Just barely touching it and it's bleeding. Oh my god, it's getting all over that one. So I kind of hate myself because I was putting fray check on the seams in the inside and I got a little on the front of the dress here. You can see, it's hard to see on camera, but it's there. And some on the back of the dress. Oh my god, I'm so mad because I was trying to be really careful and that happened and it's like, oh, I could just die. Anyway, so I just have to live with that. I'm trying to just accept things as they are. And I'm just going to keep going and hope that that extra fabric covers it up. I think it will, so we're fine. And now I just have to put the fasteners on the back, so I'm going to put some stamps on there. Okay, now I have 2 stamps on there, and that's the whole closure. I'm going to try it on her now. Okay, well, let's turn her head around. There we go. So it's okay. It's an okay fit. It's not perfect. I feel like it's gaping the tiniest bit there because I don't have a snap there, but I don't really want to put one because I feel like she's not going to be able to sit if I do that. But anyway, so I don't know. I put these snaps probably a little too close together, but I wanted to get one like at the chest and one at the waist. So I probably could have put the waist one a little lower, but oh well. It's fine, it fits, it looks great from the front. I mean, if you don't consider the hem, which I haven't finished yet. Now, the one thing I hate is that, oh my god, did I not make a Tinkerbell dress? My goal was don't make a Tinkerbell doll, and then I make a Tinkerbell doll. So that is just great. Okay, I went ahead and cut the hem, and here is what we're looking at. I still have to kind of press the seams so it looks a little neater in there. It still doesn't look very neat on the back of the skirt. Like, honestly, I maybe should have lined this, but it is what it is at this moment. And we are going to add that gauzy fabric on top. You know, here's that gauzy fabric. So, you know, it's going to, you're not going to be able to see as much of this dress as it looks like you would be able to see. I do think I'm going to put just some little straps in there because I'm going to put strappy bits for the shoulders, just like the picture. So I'll put straps here just because it does keep falling down, and we obviously would like her to be able to wear her clothes properly. But honestly, like, I couldn't be more pleased with it. Okay, I could be more pleased with it. I made a few mistakes, but I'm not a professional in the least, and I think I did pretty good, you know, all things considered. So I cut 6 pieces total of that gauzy fabric. I just cut like a rectangle. I didn't even really measure it. Just kind of was eyeballing it using my mat and cutting. And I'm just going to gather these little things at the top and kind of tuck them in to the top of her dress and see how I can drape them to give it, you know, like this natural fluid look. So now I just kind of want to test where I want to put my little drapey bits. I've gathered the top of them, and I already have an idea of this, so this is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I'll pin one over here, and this will be kind of flowy on the side there. And then another one I can pin on this side. Obviously those will look more normal once they're sewn in. And then I can't decide for this one if I want it in the middle or if I want it like over to one side. So I'm gonna sew these two side ones first and then kind of decide what I want to do with the front. Maybe I want to make one like coming down a little lower. I'm not sure. But I'm gonna start with sewing these two into that bodice area. And then for the back, honestly, it's really hard to see with her stand here. But I'm gonna sew one over here and then another one over here. And that way nothing is in the way of the snap, but it still will get a lot of coverage. Okay, here is how I gather that fabric panel that I cut. Nothing special here. Just knot at the end of the string, put it in, and I just try to go about the same distance. I actually had the other one a little closer to the edge here, I think. There we go. Just try and make them all the same. And then I'm not going to tie it all the way tight because I don't know how tight I'm going to want it when I sew it to the dress. So I'm going to tighten it like that and then just loosen it the tiniest bit and then tie a knot. And I'll leave this thread on there because I can use that thread to attach it to the dress. I tried my hardest, but I just hate it. It's not that bad. I mean, I hate those marks on her legs. I'm gonna clean those. Anyway, I just do not like this dress. The sewing looks terrible. Anyway, it's not the worst. You know, it's not the best. I don't really like it. I feel a little discouraged now. I want to remake it, but I don't know. I might have to take a break from this dress for a minute, just because it's not what I envisioned. I really appreciate if you watched until the end of the video. This is the longest one I've ever made, actually. It's a whole 30 minutes. I really hope you enjoyed it and understand that everyone makes things they aren't really satisfied with sometimes. It's just part of the process. I'll post another video about it when I go back to it when I'm not angry at it. Thanks for watching.